Hello everybody, this is Joran Bares from the Activiti team, and in this short movie I'm going to show you how easy it is to get started with a Spring Boot project that uses Activiti. Now, as you probably have read on my blog or on Twitter, Activiti has been added to the Spring Initializer just last week, which is awesomely cool. So, if you go to start.spring.io, you get to this page, and here you can create a new project, a starter project for yourself. So, and here in the dependency list, you can now look for Activiti, and it will add the right dependencies to your project. Let's also call this one Activiti demo. So the use case we're going to implement in this very short demo is we're going to expose a REST endpoint that when you call it through HTTP, it will start a new process instance, right? So we also need with Activiti a database. So I'm going to use the H2 memory database because it's easy for demo purposes. And we also need the web dependencies because of course we're going to create a REST endpoint. So generate that project. Store it on our disk. Here we go. Open it up, unzip it. So as you can see, this is a Maven project that is a starter for your Spring Boot project. So open up your favorite IDE and navigate to it. Open it up. So as you can see, this is a standard Maven project. It has all the dependencies from Spring Boot and the Activiti dependencies, H2, and all the stuff we said we wanted. And it also has a Spring Boot application, a class with a Spring Boot application that is our main class. So what happened behind the scenes is because we have this stuff, we have the Activiti Spring Boot integration on the Spring Boot integration starter, let's say, on the class pod. This will initialize, when this app boots, this will initialize the Activiti process engine. It will find processes for us, it will automatically deploy them, it will create the services, and you will be able to auto-wire them. So let's do exactly that. Let's create our REST controller. Now, I'm just doing this inline as an inner class. Of course, this is for demo purposes, but you can do this in your, typically you do this in the file, in a separate file yourself. So let's create a static class, call it very unoriginally my REST controller. Here we go. As I said, you can auto-wire all the Activiti services. So we're going to start a process, which is the runtime service we need. And we're also going to have a start my process method, right? Let's annotate that with a couple of Spring MVC annotations, Spring annotation information. So let's the value, we're going to map it to, let's say, start my process. It's going to be using a method type. I need methods, request method needs to be get. So obviously in reality this would be a post because you probably want to pass some data, some variables to your processes. But for demo purposes, I'm just going to curl into it and yeah, to get this much easier here. And just to make it completely correct, I'm going to say it produces a media type application JSON value. So it's going to produce JSON, which is not really correct because it's going to do nothing. Return nothing, but just for demo purposes. So here we're going to use our injected runtime service and start a certain process. We don't have a process, but no worries. Let's just quickly create one. So let's go to the Activiti cloud, which is on activiti.alfresco.com. Go to the editor and create a test process. Here we go. So very simply, not going to bother with the real process, I'm just going to create a process with two tasks, A and B. That's it. Also make sure we have an assignment here. So just going to assign it by default to the process initiator. Validate, that's a good process, save it. Whoops, sorry, click too fast. Save it, go to the details again, and now get the XML so we can import it into our IDE. So here it is. As I said, Spring Boot will look for processes to deploy automatically when boots up. And by default, it will look in the processes folder. So let's put them there, put the file there. Here we go. We've got a process now. Copy this ID because that's the one we want to paste into here to start the process. And just to make things more interesting, let's just add some output here so we can see actually something happens and say we have now, and then do a little count on the number of process instances. So this is going to do a query to the database and going to count how many process instances we actually now have. All right? Instances. Here we go. So that's it. Let's try to run it. Here we go. Spring Boot, booting up. It's booting up Activity, the process engine, as you can see, it started up. So let's go into our console now and do a very simple curl to localhost 8080, and let's see, I mapped it to start my process. Start my process. Here we go. And it said we now have 1 process instances. Let's do it a couple of times. 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we go. And you can see it just calls. It just works. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Just wanted to show you how quickly you can get something going, a project going with Spring Boot and the Activity integration. And I hope just took me a couple of minutes to generate that project, create a process, and we're now already having a REST endpoint that starts a process instance, which is, in my eyes, a pretty awesome thing. Thank you for watching.